Howdy, folks. I'm That Literary Lady, and welcome to another episode of On the Air with That Literary Lady. I thank you for joining us and making the show a success. Today's guest on the line is Brian Ganges. Brian is a motivational speaker and a best-selling author. How are you doing, Brian?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I said thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on the show. Now, tell us a little bit about your books, Brian.
Well, my books are, and they're still being written as we speak, but the ones that I've written to date, I co-authored The Soul of a Man, which is a compilation of stories written by positive, strong black men of faith, and we endeavored to tell a story from the perspective that how the media portrays us many times is not always accurate.
Right.
The gangster, the uneducated, irresponsible, that way we were portrayed in the media. We wanted to dispel that myth, and we wanted to put forth some information and stories, nonfiction and fiction, that showed a protagonist, showed a struggle, showed a character, showed a struggle, and showed a victory. And so we put that together, and actually we won an award for that book, African American Literary Award Show Award for Best Short Anthology in 2009. My book
that you wrote with, I believe it's Alvin Romer and Mark Lacey?
Yeah, it was 16, I believe. It was 16 of us total. Okay. And yet they were two of the authors with entries in the book, Joey Pickney, Cale Belvin, several others. Okay. But a very positive piece, very uplifting, very encouraging, and got a lot of positive feedback on Amazon and Barnes & Noble sites, and a lot of people on Facebook. So it was a very, I was glad to be a part of it, thanks to Elise Gabrielle, who's actually the editor and the publisher of the book.
Okay.
Storm Publishing. So very encouraged, very glad to be a part of the work and to be around such inspiring men.
Definitely.
Yeah. And my second book is called Piecing the Puzzle Together, and I was nominated for Breakout Author of the Year with the African American Literary Award Show, and that is my, how can I say it? I guess that's my construction book, How to Build a Christian Life. I deal with, the book is in three parts, foundation, a building aspect, the building material aspect, and putting it all together. And that's how you build a building, that's how you build a life. You have to have a foundation of a building, you have to have a foundation for your life, you have to have the materials necessary to build the house, you need the tools necessary to build a spiritual life, and you also need to know how to put it all together.
Right.
And that's how I build the book. That's how we build a house. That's how I built the book. And it just gives a myriad of keys, tools, principles to help people to understand whether you've never been born again, whether you've been born again for a short period of time, or whether you've been with Christ for a long time. You can always find somewhere where you can retool, revamp, reaffirm, the beliefs and the teachings of the Word of God to help build our lives, to help shore up some things in our lives so that we can be stronger as Christians day by day. So,
right.
Those are my two books. My third book, which is coming out in 2013, is called Lord Deliver Me from Church Folks.
Church Folks. Tell us about that one.
Oh man, that's a good one. That's going to be, and I'm still writing that one. And what that is it handles and it takes head on a lot of the erroneous teachings in the church, a lot of the misconceptions, a lot of the myths, a lot of the teachings that we've taken for granted, and we've just listened to our pastors for so long. We've heard grandmama say it when we were kids, and that's what the pastor said. All those types of nuances that have plagued our communities, and I go back and I revisit those teachings and whatnot and traditions of men, and I say, well, this is what we believed, or this is what was taught to us. This is what Grandmama and Grandpop said. This is what our parents told us. But what does the Bible actually say in context?
Right.
And so I go back and I unwind a lot of those myths, and I help to tie some things together so that we can, as you know, it's actually kind of a it piggybacks on piecing the puzzle together. So if you want to call this a series of books, I guess this would be part 2 in the series of books that I'm writing. So it's going to be good. It deals with a lot of hot topic issues. I deal with tithing. I deal with sex. I deal with politics. I deal with relationships. So.
Let me read this real quick here. It says, Brian gives a riveting expose that will uncover and bring clarity and insight to many of the current cultural and social misunderstandings that plague today's church. Topics such as interracial dating, masturbation, to what extent we should obey authority figures, tithes, oral sex, Sunday morning segregation, listening to secular music, homosexuality in the church, and a host of other hot topics are tastefully addressed in this one-of-a-kind book. Boy, you are out there.
Hey, you know, my thing is, if God is the creator, you know, and he's the author of truth, and he is truth, you know, right. We can handle the truth. We're the Christians. We're the church. We're his body. You know, it's better for the truth to come through the body of Christ than it is to come through somebody who's going to twist and pervert the good things that God has created for us. There's nothing wrong with sex. Right. It's just that the world has gotten a hold of sex, and they twist it, and they create pornography, and they create rape, and, you know, incest, and all these other things that aren't what God intended for us to aren't the manners in which he created sex to be used.
Right.
You know, so I'm just bringing those hot topics, those taboo topics that the church doesn't want to talk about, but we should talk about it, and you put it in context with how God created it and the purpose of it, and it's a good thing.
And I can assure our audience that Brian does talk about taboo topics. Brian will talk about topics that other people won't even touch upon, and it's so funny and interesting to go and read his posts. We are Facebook friends, and we joke because, unfortunately and disappointingly, he is a Giants fan, and at any rate, he's still a good guy, and he talks about taboo topics that really get people talking. And the one thing I like about Brian is a lot of people, like me, will stay away from politics and religion because in many instances you can't have a civil conversation with most people where you respect each other's opinion and learn to agree to disagree. And that's one thing that you have with Brian. Brian's going to speak his mind. However, he's going to do it in a respectful way. If you make a comment that maybe he doesn't agree with, he's going to engage you in conversation because he's curious as to why you are feeling the way you are. It's not necessarily that you're wrong. He wants to understand why you think you do the way you do. But he's a good person to have a conversation with if you want to have that conversation with him respectively. Now, if you're not going to be respected, Brian is not the person to talk to about taboo situations. Now, Brian, you're a motivational speaker.
Yes.
Tell us about some of the topics that you talk about or you discuss in some of your speaking engagements.
Well, I haven't gotten into the deep stuff yet, but I have had some encounters where I dealt with more of the not the hot topic stuff, but more of the motivational stuff that gets people thinking. Your purpose, your destiny. If a chair has a purpose, how much more does your life, a person that God breathed the breath of life into your body, how much more do you have purpose? I always try and give people the insight to see that their life is more than just the person that gets up in the morning and goes to work. Yes, going to work, that's a part of life, but there's more to life than going to work. It's about affecting people, about affecting change. It's about understanding truth. It's about knowing who God is. It's about fulfilling your purpose, fulfilling your destiny. Why are you here? So I deal with a lot of those issues. I found a lot of times, unfortunately, especially when I deal with churches and pastors, that I scare them to a great degree because of some of the I'm willing to hit those hard topics head on. And a lot of guys just want to stay away from that because it's controversial, because people might not come back. Unfortunately, a lot of people are looking for numbers or people who can bring in numbers. I'm not about that. I want to set people free by the Word of God. I'm not in this for money. I'm not in this for fame. I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be known. I just want to go to the grocery store, do my shopping, go to the mall, go to the restaurant, and go home. That's what I want to do.
Right.
So I deal with, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't deal with the hot topic issues at church or any of the places that I speak, but I tend to lean towards the motivational piece. And if you're open to more of the hot topic stuff and you want to engage politically or with relationship issues or whatever it is, I'd be open to it. But as of yet, I haven't done it.
Okay. Now, have you ever considered being a minister? Because you do, in my opinion, preach a lot.
Well, yeah, I have. I'm a minister. I am a minister. The gift is in me. But there again, this kind of goes off topic a little bit, but I'm very controversial in a lot of churches. Even in my church, I'm very controversial, and I'm one of the people that the church wants to silence. That's why I write books, because I'm outside of the parameters of the church.
Right.
And this is my ministry. Not to say that I won't get an opportunity in the church, again, to preach, but a lot of people don't know how to handle me. My church doesn't know how to handle me. A lot of ministers and pastors that I know, they don't know how to handle me. A lot of them that I know that I engage, respectfully, of course, they're threatened by me because I challenge them. And a lot of preachers that I know, they don't want to be challenged. They want to be, and I'm not saying this about all preachers, but some of the preachers that I know, they don't want to be challenged. They want to be seen as, I'm the person that God has ordained to bring forth truth to this house, to this flock of people. You know, don't rock the boat. It pretty much is how it goes with me. And I'm not the one, so I alienate a lot of people, unfortunately, because my stance on truth.
Okay. Well, let's get into a little controversial truth, according to Bryant.
Yeah.
I'm a Republican. You're a Democrat. Are you a Democrat or are you an independent?
I am a conservative, independent, libertarian, if that makes any sense. I'm not a Democrat. No, I used to be a Democrat. I'm not a Democrat, no.
Okay, well, let's talk about the elections. Let's talk about the differences in the RNC convention and the DNC convention. Which one moved you the most?
Well, and that's a good question, but it goes a little bit deeper than that.
Okay, go there.
There were some behind-the-scenes things that happened in both conventions that were very disheartening for me. First, with the Republicans. The Republicans, they tried to ram some things down the throats of the delegates at the convention that would forever change the grassroots movement in American politics. And what they did was they tried to, they amended the rules of the Republican National Convention, said that in the future, the RNC could tell Texas, North Carolina, Kentucky, and states around the country, we don't like the delegates that you're sending to us, go back and have another election.
Right.
So, and then they forced that through, and they didn't let the delegates speak and say, no, we don't like that, this is what we want to do. They just rammed it down their throats and said, this is the way it is, and we're adopting it. So as far as the issues are concerned, the issues are important, and I'm all for the issues, but that right there let me know that power grab, that the elite and those that are in the top shelf of the Republican National Convention, they are threatened, and they are going to do whatever they have to do to remain in power. Now, the same thing also happened, a different topic, but the same thing happened at the DNC. And what they did was they were trying to put in some language into the platform to the effect that God should be a part of the American experience and Jerusalem is the capital of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say they did a voice vote, and it was about half the people said yay and about half the people said nay.
3 times.
Yeah, they did it 3 times, and, you know, there was no clear-cut majority of which way it was going. It was pretty even, if you ask me. But they went on ahead, and they already had it on the teleprompter. If you look back on YouTube, you'll see that there are teleprompter views of the teleprompter recorded, and it said, you know, the nay, two-thirds, you know, the yeas have it. And it was like it was already pre-scripted that they had, hey, this is what we're going to do. You're going to take it, and you're going to love it. So my point with the two-party political system isn't necessarily the platforms, which that's a concern as well, but it's the idea that you can, from the top down, rule the party, where it should be a bottom-up, ruling from the grassroots on up, and that the top should be ruled by the bottom. Well, it should be elected by the bottom, and that the top should serve the bottom, not the bottom serve the top.
Right.
And that's the problem that I have with both parties. Now, you asking me which platform or whatever moved me. Now, like I said, I am a true conservative. I'm not a rhino. I'm not a neocon. I believe in the principles of smaller government or classical liberalism, smaller government, individual liberty, personal freedom, personal responsibility, smaller government, less taxes. You know, if I succeed, I will be rewarded by the marketplace. You know, those sorts of things are what drive me and motivate me politically. It's more of a biblical stance. It's more aligned with Scripture. I'm totally against abortion. There's no way I could vote for an abortion candidate and be able to look myself and God in the eyes. You know, I'm totally for helping my neighbor, but I don't want to help my neighbor. I don't want the government to steal from me to help my neighbor. I'm totally against that.
Right.
So, yeah.
So the last question before we move on, because this can be a little get very deep.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think will win the election in November?
Oh, Barack Obama's definitely going to win.
Okay.
And, I say that because first of all, he's got incumbency behind him. And number 2, the Republican Party has alienated the party. They have their base, but they have alienated the potential for disgruntled Democrats to come over. They have alienated the independents, and they have alienated the libertarian wing of the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And those are the 3 groups that the Republicans need to win, and they've alienated those 3. So for me, as far as I'm concerned, as long as Barack Obama doesn't do something crazy, it's a lock. He's in.
Right. Okay. I kind of agree with you,
mm-hmm.
but I see both sides starting to put their foot in their mouth. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So let's go ahead and move on. Now, and I want to talk to you let's talk about ebooks. Back in back in early 2011. Ebooks boomed, and everyone thought that they would actually outpace and actually put paperback and hardcovers out of business. And although I think they did do some damage, they kind of halted. The growth kind of slowed down in early 2012. And I read a report today that says in 2013 that the speed of ebooks or the popularity will pick back up to 70% in 2013. Now, how do you feel about ebooks in the market? I personally like the convenience of ebooks because I have approximately 3,000 books on my Kindle right now and maybe even 1,200 on my tablet, and it's easier to carry, but I like the physical books as far as my references go, my manual books go, and all that. What is your take on ebooks?
I don't have a problem with ebooks. Ebooks are the manifestation of ingenuity, innovation, the creative entrepreneurial spirit that is alive and well in America. So I applaud that, and it's a good thing. I'm like you, though. I mean, I do have books on my Kindle, but I just love a hardcover book, a softback or hardcover, whatever it is. But I just love a tangible book so I can mark up, so I can reference, so I can, I don't have to turn it on in the middle of the night. I can just turn over and get a book and turn to it or whatever. Right. But I like the concept of ebooks. It's very convenient, and it appears to be the wave of the future.
Well, one of the controversial topics about ebooks is, I'm sure you read every day if you keep up with the industry, is are the lawsuits that are pending around the pricing of ebooks. Mm-hmm. Now, do you think that a person who sells a paperback book for $12.95 is justified for selling an ebook for $9.99?
Well, that's the beauty of capitalism. And we don't truly live in a capitalist society. We should, but we don't. And the issue is whatever you sell your product for and whatever the marketplace is willing to buy, that's the price. Okay. So as long as there's no collusion and there's no fraud and no one is, and it's a contract where both parties agree, I don't have a problem if it's $4 million. If both parties agree, then they agree.
Okay. Now, Brian, tell us about your mentorship with the youth.
The youth. By trade, by day, I am a construction project manager and estimator. Okay. And what I do is I take blueprints and I figure costs for buildings, office buildings, malls, airports. And an owner will go to a general contractor to have a building built. General contractor will come to me and say, hey, how much will it cost for me to build this building? I'll figure the cost. I'll tell them, and then we'll go from there. We rebuild the building. What I want to do, and what I do in one of my ventures, I call it the construction initiative, is I'm endeavoring to partner with some local businesses and some local schools and some other nonprofit organizations, and I desire to go into the inner cities, preferably inner cities, and grab a hold of the youth who have a desire to learn, to have a good trade under their belt, to have an opportunity that many people don't even know is an actual business, trade. Right. Construction on the business side. I don't know many people who understand how the building actually comes to fruition. It's a concept in somebody's mind at first, and then a whole lot of money changes hands, and then you see the building go up. Right. So, and I had a partnership with a library here in Dallas, and it kind of fell through at first, but we're going to get it ramped back up here in 2013 when my book comes out. But we're going to go into some of these inner city schools, and we're going to grab a hold of these kids and show them a trade, an actual trade. I'm going to show them how the business works. I'm going to show them how to go through an interview. I'm going to show them how to tie a tie. I'm going to show them how to present themselves, how to do a resume, how to speak to general contractors, how to speak on an interview, the things to say, what not to say, how to present yourself, So it's going to be not just a lecture, so to speak. I'm going to give them principles for life to show them how to get ahead and how to present yourself and how to be a productive citizen.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, we've come to the part of our show where we allow for self-promotion. So can you tell our audience, one, where they can reach you online, how they can reach you, and how they can book you to speak for their engagements?
The best place to reach me and all the information about me is at brianganges.com. That's my website. You can send me a note there. I'll get it directly. There's a contact speaker there. There's information about me speaking. There's actually I think there's like a mock contract on my website. My website, that's my home. And anything you want about me or the publisher, Peace in the Storm Publisher, it's all on that site. And that's the best place to reach me. And you can look at my construction initiative is up there as well. My books, I believe there's a couple of videos I was on, interviewed by CBS when I was in New York a couple of years ago. I believe that video is up there. And a myriad of photos, ops of me at various places around the country doing book signings. So BrianGanges.com is where you can find me.
Great, and that's BRIANGANGES.com.
That is correct.
Any last words, Brian, before we leave?
Well, I just want to encourage everyone to find your purpose, whatever it is. Like I said, a chair has a purpose, so do you have a purpose. Find your purpose.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brian, and I wish you the best of luck, especially when that new book comes out.
I appreciate your help. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, folks, that's another episode of On the Air with That Literary Lady. I'm Yolanda Johnson-Bryant, That Literary Lady. Join us next Friday when our guest will be author and entrepreneur Sheila M. Goss. Until then, remember to find us on iTunes, on Blogger, on thatliterarylady.com, and remember in January we will be airing on Blog Talk Radio. Well, until next time, be good to yourself and be good to everyone else. Have a great day.